The more you know, the less you believe. Think about that. The more you know, the less you believe. Most of the time we believe things because we don't know. If you have knowledge, you don't have to believe because you have knowledge. Now, just one other thing, I'm going to go to my film. As we go through this course, time and time again, we're going to talk about phraseology. And so from the very beginning, I want you to begin to decode societies and cultures by what they say. Because what they say has a great deal to do with how they think. Now, there's a phrase we've heard, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Based on what we've seen thus far, that probably does not come from a European society. Because that's based upon truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. But over here, and I grew up in New York, the variation was do unto others before they do it unto you. The premise is that they're out to do no good, just as perhaps you are, and you better get them before they get you. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you is known as the golden rule. But I learned in this society there was another golden rule. And that golden rule was, he who have the goal, make the rules. That also is not based upon truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. Seeing is believing. Have you heard that? What's that say? It really says if you can't see something, you can't believe in it. Can you see God?
Yes, with the pictures.
Yeah, that picture's fake anyway. But at heart, a society that has the phraseology, seeing is believing, the converse must also be true. If you can't see it, you can't believe in it. Children should be seen and not heard. A society that has that particular mantra probably is not going to be a very friendly society toward children. It's discounted them. Now we've heard these things every part of our life, but we never stopped to think about what it really meant because we had nothing to contrast it with. Now we do. You only go around once. You've heard that phrase. If you understand that phrase, it says, so I better get everything I can get from me this one time, because it's all I'm gonna have. It's all about me. Vince Lombardi had a phrase. He said, winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. That's the typical European way of looking at things. Winning isn't everything. It's the only thing. I got a buddy who says in jest, if you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. If you ain't cheating, you ain't trying. Typically a European way of looking at things. Another lady I know has the phrase, if you find a sucker, bump his head. That's not based upon truth, justice, righteousness, balance, harmony, reciprocity, and order. On the way over here today, I heard some people talking about caveat emptor. What does caveat emptor mean? Buyer beware. Buyer beware. In other words, you're going to buy something, you better be real careful how you're doing it. Why? Because the person who you're buying from probably trying to cheat you. That's not built upon truth, justice, righteousness, harmony, balance, reciprocity, and order. Years ago in Africa, there was something called dumb trading. Europeans called it dumb trading, D-U-M-B trading. I think they called it that because they thought it was dumb, number one, to do it that way. But then number two, you didn't say anything in this particular process. Here's how it went. If you were a merchant and you had something you wanted to sell, you go to the village square where the trading is done. You lay your goods out and you retreat behind a tree or some distance away. If you were a buyer, you'd come up to the goods, take a look at it, see, whether or not you wanted to purchase it. If you wanted to purchase it, you put down what you thought was the equivalent amount for it and whatever the medium of exchange was. You put down the money for it. Then you retreat a distance away. The seller would come up, inspect his goods, inspect what you've left for the price. If he felt that that was a worthy exchange, he would leave his goods and take the money. If he felt that it was not quite a worthy exchange, he'd leave both, retreat. The buyer would come back, see that the goods were still there, his money was still there, have the choice at that point of putting down some more money and retreating again, or taking his money and going someplace else. Europeans call that dumb bartering. Both because you didn't say anything, but also because to them it seemed dumb to do that. But think about that. Think about a society in which you could lay your goods out and move away from it to a distance that you couldn't snatch it if somebody else tried to snatch it. Think about a society where you could lay your money down and walk away and know not only that the person that you're trying to buy from was not going to steal your money and take their goods, but nobody else would pass by and take it. Societies operate by different rules. We've lived all of our life in a European environment, and so we've automatically inculcated into ourselves European values without ever analyzing what those values are. As we go through this series of classes, at every point it's going to be important that we decode what's really being said and ask ourselves, does this meet our standard of behavior? And does this build the kind of society that we want to live in? Now, I was trained as a chemist, and I thought about that this morning in terms of one other thing I wanted to talk about. You can't see thought. I suspect that most of you here right now are thinking, but I can't see your thoughts. As a chemist, I learned about things that are called gases. Oxygen's a gas. Nitrogen's a gas. Carbon dioxide's a gas. We're all breathing oxygen right now out of a common pool. None of us can see oxygen. You can't see gases. But under the right conditions, under a lowering of temperature and the application of pressure, a gas can be condensed into a liquid. In the case of water vapor, steam, it can be condensed to water. So I think about speech as liquid thought. Thought is to a gas, as speech is to water. Water can be operated on even further. Again, either by the application of pressure or the lowering of temperature, water can become like ice. Speech can also be fixed and become solid as writing. So that the phrases we read reflect what's coming out of people's mouths, reflect what's going on in their head. Just as we can see a solid piece of ice that can melt into water and vaporize into steam. So I personally, based on my chemical background, I see speech as liquid thought. And I see writing as frozen thought. So when I read a phrase, I can move back through those changes to analyze what's actually being thought And what does that really say about the people who think that particular way? Sir.
With what you're saying, which to me makes a lot of sense in terms of decoding, can we think of using tools in this class to assist us in the decoding? To be more clear, when you're reading certain papers, you'll find phrases such as "wave the bloody flag," things of that nature. I think to some of us, those phrases may be foreign. Maybe to assist us, could we have a tool here in class where that we can share with one another?
Yes.
And with that, I'd be willing to bring in one that I use. There's a dictionary that I find quite helpful. It's called the Dictionary of Allusions. And it will take a phrase such as what I just used, waving the bloody flag, and it'll contextualize it for you. Let's say the word was used, and then it gives you the paragraph. And so it breaks it down. It also gives you the origin of it.
I'd like to see that, yes. Yes.
But I couldn't pass it until I bring it, because I have found it an invaluable tool to assist me in reading the newspapers, the Times, the Wall Street Journal, and others.
What's the title again?
I think it's the second edition. It's the Dictionary of Allusions.
The Dictionary of Allusions.
Yeah, I'll bring it in, because first I have the old one and the new one. They changed it.
Okay.
But basically, it's the allusions.
And what class members might also do, begin writing down phrases you hear, that you, and analyze what these phrases actually mean. I think you'll find in many, many cases, those which are typically used in society really don't speak to values you really want to have. But once again, we have not been given an opportunity to analyze those things and to think about what's really being said and what's really meant by what's being said. Kaba.
I think the main reason for that, or one of the main reasons for that, is that most of us don't realize that we're in a foreign system. We think that that's just normal.
Yeah.
It's just normal behavior, and then anytime you go against that, you can be looked upon as a true crazy.
We take it for granted, right?
Yeah.
How we came to the world, we take everything for granted.
Yeah. It was here when I got here.
Yeah. So it must be right.
It must be right. And in particular in this society where up until very recently, you only got one view. It was not only right, it was the only thing. This also leads you now to understand why we have this emphasis now upon trying to freeze things in a very conservative manner. Go back to the old days. Back in the old days, you could have a Christmas ceremony. You didn't have to worry about Jews not believing in Christ, about Muslims, atheists, anybody else. Just do what you want to do. Now you're being forced to take other people's interests into account. Who was this? I saw Branson, Richard Branson, the airline man. This past week I saw on TV, had created a new holiday called Christahana Kwanzaa. Blending Christmas, Hanukkah, and Kwanzaa together. He said, let's celebrate on the 13th of December, and please everybody. Well, it wouldn't please everybody. It might please the Christians, the Jews, and blacks. But the other people, who not even being counted still, There was a case I saw in Atlanta where this Muslim family, recognizing that they were trying to have their daughter have a perfect attendance record, and other kids are excused on their religious holidays, they said, can we observe our religious holiday? We're not saying you got to be out of school, but if we don't come that day, can we at least be counted as present because we're absent because it's a religious holiday? The families had to move out of the place they were living in Atlanta. So many death threats they got. Kids are disturbed because folks say, no, we're not going to give you the right to even celebrate that. Not going to justify it. We live in a very strange society. Hopefully, as we go through, we'll be able to decode these things. Yes, good.
Yesterday, I was listening to Bill O'Reilly, his radio show. And he was talking about how he had this campaign against the Bird Islands group, whatever group owns Bird Islands, they own some of these
What is Bird Eyes?
I'm sorry, I'm from down south where they have the Bird Eyes is like it's a department store.
Okay, department store.
It's
Okay.
like a J.C. Penney's, kind of like.
Okay.
And the company that owns them owns Macy's, I believe, and some of the other ones. But anyway, they had a campaign that the company did where they wouldn't recognize Christmas, and they wouldn't put Merry Christmas up in the store. So he had this big brouhaha last year, and so I guess now because of the pressure that he got out with all the people, they forced these chains to now put banners up that said Merry Christmas, and now they're playing Christmas carols and stuff like that. Whereas before they had stopped doing it because they didn't want to offend people that didn't believe in the holiday.
As I said, we live in a very strange society. It's important that we analyze these things as we go through them. One little caution. Everybody didn't get to class on time today. I got to start on time. I had a lot of good stuff for you. Some of you who were late missed some good stuff. I can't go back. You can pick it up on the web when the website's up. I hope it'll be up by the next class session. But it's important to be here at 9, because I'm going to start no later than 10 minutes after 9. I'm not going to be lecturing. I'm not going to be showing as many films in some of the sessions as I've shown in the past several weeks. I'm very happy that because we have a projector now and we can show DVDs, that I can show you some things that were not available to us before, because I think they help to give us a great deal more balance and background. I have today, by the way, with me 3 copies of the Ape Man series of Walter Cronkite. That's 2 DVD sets. I have another DVD set which is composed of Ape 2 Man, the first DVD I showed, and the one I'm showing today is called Darwin's Dangerous Idea, which talks about Darwin. You'll be able to see how he lived and how he confronted the things that actually came up to confront him as he began to discover how life on the planet was actually formed and whatnot. Next session, I'll probably be lecturing the entire time, but I felt it was very important when we have visual materials to use